It's like bringing a sledgehammer to kill a fly. But last year's B-2 strikes against Houthi targets was about delivering a message not just to the Houthis, but to the rest of the world. This is the truth about how the B-2 Spirit bombers devastated Houthi pirates. October 17, 2024. A pair of B-2 Spirit stealth bombers are just now reaching the coast of Yemen. It's unknown if the bombers were deployed from their home base in Missouri or if they were launched from the much closer airfield at Diego Garcia in the Indian Ocean. In a single flight, a B-2 can take off from its home base in the southern United States and make it all the way to Asia or cross the Atlantic and enter European airspace. But to really give it legs, the U.S. operates the world's largest fleet of aerial tankers. These big planes are deployed around the world, and while the B-2 remains the world's stealthiest operational bomber, its aerial tanker escorts definitely are not. And that's why mission planning always takes into account refueling. It does no good to send the world's stealthiest aircraft into enemy territory if the enemy can track the refueling tankers along the route and then figure out exactly where the bomber is coming from. That's why it's possible that the B-2s on that day were launched from Diego Garcia, where with a single tank of gas they'd be able to reach Yemen, deliver their payload, and head back for home. Then again, given the low threat environment that Houthi-controlled Yemen represents, the B-2s may not have been concerned with giving away their approach. The Houthis, nor their masters back in Iran, have the global surveillance capabilities to track a string of aerial tankers hinting at the approach of stealth bombers. But the Chinese do, and they have every reason to care. After all, what could be more satisfying than watching an American stealth bomber, the very symbol of American power, brought down in flames by a regional terror group? As the B-2s slip into Yemeni airspace, though, the question is, what exactly can the Houthis do about it? On paper, the Houthi rebels operate an air defense system that covers all of their controlled territory. In truth, the system is largely old, spotty, and has been undergoing attrition from Saudi Arabian airstrikes for a long time now. But that's no reason to get complacent, as the world learned in 1999. During the NATO bombing of Yugoslavia, an air defense unit of the Yugoslav army managed to ambush and shoot down an F-117 Nighthawk stealth strike aircraft. And to make the incident even more embarrassing, they did it with a 30-year-old missile system. The F-117 shootdown was the first ever shootdown of a stealth aircraft and made possible by simple complacency. The Yugoslav army soldiers had learned that the infamous stealth aircraft kept using the same flight paths, allowing them to ambush the stealth aircraft. However, what's often unreported about this incident is how the Yugoslav army used low-band radars to cleverly track the F-117, teaching the U.S. Air Force to never underestimate an opponent no matter how outclassed. But the Houthis won't get the same opportunity that the Yugoslav soldiers did. For starters, the B-2 is a much stealthier aircraft with a modern design and no vertical tail. Also, the F-117 was not using electronic countermeasures and had just increased its radar cross-section dramatically with open wheel wells. The B-2s are flying smooth and clean. Odds of detection by the Houthis are abysmal. The two aircraft have different targets, but the same profile. Both target sets are deeply buried underground storage sites, housing everything from rocket motors to fully functional anti-ship and even air defense missiles. Iran has been silently supplying the Houthis with advanced technology for years. Despite no public acknowledgement, it is well known that the Houthi campaign against Red Sea traffic has been officially sanctioned and financed by Iran. The strike is a warning to the Houthis' masters. As former Defense Secretary Andrew Lloyd Austin would later say, the B-2s are sending a clear message that the U.S. has global strike capabilities to take action against these targets when necessary, anytime, anywhere. But Iran is betting that this threat is more bark than bite because the targets the B-2s are after are extremely difficult to kill. Both the Houthis and the Iranians make use of deeply buried underground facilities. Iran is infamous for their use of underground military bases. They house everything from fully functional missiles to aircraft ready to taxi onto above-ground runways while remaining safely out of striking range of enemy weapons. The largest of these facilities are known as missile cities and are so large that the personnel need to use vehicles to get around inside of them. In a series of videos clearly aimed at the United States, Iran has revealed multiple of these facilities, replete with thousands of different weapon systems, such as long, medium, and short-range ballistic missiles, with many of them capable of being fitted with chemical, biological, or even nuclear warheads. Some of these facilities are believed to be capable of launching strikes and rearming, all from completely underground silos, meaning that there is no missile launch site to expose for enemy attack. Israel and other regional powers such as Saudi Arabia and Jordan have all underscored the threat of Iran's growing missile arsenal, and things are coming to a boiling point as the new White House administration sets a 2-month deadline for Iran to completely dismantle its nuclear and missile programs. By releasing more videos of its underground missile cities, Iran has made its defiance clear. This means that the strike on Houthi targets is merely a preview of what's to come at a much larger scale. And yet, in propaganda videos released by Iran itself, it appears that these underground missile cities have critical security vulnerabilities. And as the B-2 bombers close in with their Houthi targets, they're about to reveal the result of those flaws. It's not known exactly what weapons being carried by the B-2s, but it can only be one of 2 offerings. The first is the GBU-57 Massive Ordnance Penetrator. The weapon does exactly as it says on the box. It is massive and it penetrates as much as 200 feet of concrete. At 20 feet long and weighing 14 tons, only the B-2 stealth bomber is rated to carry the weapon, though initial tests did include the B-52 aircraft. Today, the Spirit is the only platform that can deliver these monster bunker busters to hostile targets. The GBU-57 was developed in the late 2000s and once delivered received an extra $82 million in funding to dramatically increase its penetration power for deeply buried targets. Officially designed to take out enemy command bunkers and deeply buried infrastructure, the GBU-57 has only ever had 2 targets: Iran and North Korea's nuclear facilities. Buried under tons of rock, the GBU-57 is the only way short of a nuclear attack to destroy those facilities for good. The US was slow to adopt bunker buster weapons, with the first bunker busters having been created in response to hardened German targets during World War II. It was the British who figured out how to create bombs that penetrated deep into the ground before exploding, bringing them to bear against submarine pens that the US Air Force had bombed relentlessly for weeks with little effect. In just a few raids, the new British bombs succeeded where thousands of tons of American bombs had failed. Despite having been slow to adopt them, the US would quickly surge to the forefront of bunker-busting technology. In 1991, during the Gulf War, the US identified a need to strike at deeply buried Iraqi bunkers. So they developed the GBU-28, weighing over 4,000 pounds, with a warhead that was only 675 pounds. Most of the bomb's weight was in the body of the bomb itself, utilizing a physics hack to ensure it could punch deep into the earth and kill anything buried there. Modern bunker busters rely on kinetic energy more so than explosive punch. To achieve this, they'll either increase the weight of the bomb, thus increasing the amount of energy it'll accumulate as it falls, or by increasing its speed. Sometimes both are used in combination. Very heavy bombs will be dropped from extreme altitude and come equipped with a rocket motor that kicks in right before impact to add a massive speed boost. These bombs can hit the ground at well over supersonic speeds, much to the detriment of the ear health of anyone nearby. Early bombs used steel at the nose and a very narrow body. This concentrated the energy of the falling bomb into a smaller point, giving it a much greater penetrative power. Modern bombs will make use of depleted uranium because of its incredible density and hardness, and then augment that toughness by alloying it with titanium or tungsten. The end result is a bomb with the ability to survive punching through dozens of meters of dirt, granite, or even concrete. As a bonus, the uranium will ignite when it reaches over 1,100 degrees Fahrenheit, as the explosives are triggered, further adding to the bomb's destructive effects. Alloys tend to be lighter, which works both for and against a bunker buster bomb. It allows for more explosives to be packed into the bomb, but explosives aren't as heavy as the actual material the bombs are constructed from. Surprisingly, when it comes to busting bunkers, total explosive payload is a much smaller consideration than one would expect. And that's because it's more important to penetrate deeply into the earth than to provide a big boom. Or rather, it's more important to penetrate deeply into the earth at the right spot. You'll see why in a second. The advantage of using light alloys, though, means that while the bomb weighs less, it increases the number of bombs an aircraft can carry. For the GBU-57, though, that's not a big concern. The bomb is already so big that the B-2 can only carry 2 of them total, one in each of its bomb bays. That's because the GBU-57 isn't for destroying a bunker. It is for completely annihilating entire swaths of underground infrastructure. The greatest revolution in bunker busting came with the development of high-tech computerized fuses. These fuses can be programmed to detonate the bomb's explosive payload at exactly the right time. For example, a bomb could be set to measure how deep into the earth it penetrates before exploding. Or, as we've seen Israeli Defense Forces use during the war in Gaza, some bombs can actually count the number of floors of a building that they penetrate and explode on a chosen floor. Particularly sophisticated bunker busters like those unleashed by the IDF on Hezbollah targets can even hit buried bunkers smack dab in the middle of a city with a heavy civilian presence. In one attack, the IDF launched 2 bunker busters in rapid succession. The first buried itself into the ground beneath a busy street and then exploded, creating a small crater on the surface. The second bomb then punched through the now loosened soil to dig even deeper and destroy the Hezbollah command bunker buried underneath. Choosing when to detonate can greatly enhance the power of a bunker buster munition. Though it might seem counterintuitive, it is better for the bunker buster to explode near a target but not directly on it. A modern bomb will be programmed to explode just above a deeply buried structure, resulting in massive seismic shockwaves that collapse the structure from within. Rather than try to defeat the heavy concrete reinforcement used as armor, this strategy turns that concrete armor into a vulnerability, as hundreds of tons of concrete is suddenly pressing down on a weakened support structure rattled by a nearby explosion. This is how the B-2s dropping their payload on Houthi targets achieved maximum destruction. The strikes succeeded in shutting down a classified number of weapon sites, all of them deep underground. But the overkill mission sent an important message to the Houthis' supporters: Iran, your deeply buried military facilities are not safe haven from attack. We can and will reach those too. The question is, how does the US military even know where a buried facility is or how deep it is? To answer that pressing question, the US relies on a variety of intelligence gathering techniques. The first and most obvious is the utilization of ground-penetrating radar, either flown on an airplane above or stationed on a satellite in orbit. With ground-penetrating radar, the closer you are to the ground, the better the results. However, scientists have used airborne ground-penetrating radars to successfully map large underground natural formations and even discover ancient cities lost to the jungle or desert sands. The problem with putting GPR in orbit is that the distance means a radar scan would have a much lower resolution, which might not be a problem if you're trying to detect very large structures such as military bases. Signal attenuation caused by interaction with the atmosphere is also a technical problem that needs to be overcome. But with the world's largest defense budget, there's every reason to think that the US intelligence apparatus has likely made some headway in this problem area. It's possible, though, that stealth aircraft may have been used to sniff out suspect Iranian sites. The US has been caught red-handed flying stealth drones inside Iranian airspace to gather valuable data on large underground facilities. It's also known that the US has been working on gravity gradiometry and electromagnetic gradiometry to detect underground facilities. The former measures tiny changes in the Earth's gravity field that can reveal the location of underground structures, and the latter measures changes in the Earth's magnetic field caused by metal structures or a change in soil conductivity. A large enough base would give plenty of indication to both types of sensors. The question is, how close does an intelligence asset need to be to carry out a scan? Synthetic aperture radar is also useful in detecting underground structures. The US Army has been working on ways to produce accurate details on deeply submerged objects with just a few passes of a SAR-equipped asset. The way it works is a computer measures the radar echoes produced to generate extremely detailed images of a stretch of ground. Unless builders are extremely careful, even deeply buried underground structures can have very tiny effects on the surface of the Earth above them, including altering vegetation growth and causing shrinkage of the ground. Even the smallest amount of sink can be measured with enough resolution to strongly indicate the presence of an underground structure, at which point other techniques can be used to approximate a depth. And then there's good old-fashioned human intelligence. People love to brag about their work, and throughout history, a pretty face or a bottle of alcohol has done wonders to unravel even the most tightly guarded secrets. In a country as unhappy with its government as Iran and as economically impoverished, there are many opportunities for intelligence services to penetrate deeply into the military and government sectors, and the civilian contractors used to build those facilities. No fancy technology needed, just a bribe or two, and all the details you could want to carry out a strike mission could be yours. The Houthi strikes were a huge success. Though this isn't saying much, their targets were lightly defended and likely completely incapable of defending themselves from high-tech threats posed by the B-2 bombers, even on their best day. The destruction of those underground facilities delivered a strong warning to Iran, though it appears that Tehran is either foolishly confident in its own abilities or knows something the US doesn't. Iran has been delivered with an ultimatum to give up its nuclear and missile programs or face military force. The goal is to draw Iran back into a new nuclear deal. despite the US president tearing up the old nuclear deal. With the release of videos showing off its expansive underground stockpiles of weapons, though, Iran seems to think that it can weather a storm of American and Israeli military action. But some clues gleaned from videos released by Iran of those facilities seem to indicate a glaring weakness. In numerous videos now, apparently released in response to the president's threats, Iran has shown off multiple of its underground facilities. They are impressive, spanning an estimated dozens of acres each, with Iranian officials boasting of their ability to wage an entire war from safely within. And yet, sharp-eyed analysts have noticed one critical flaw in all the videos released to date. Now, Iran hasn't been helpful enough to release a full video walkthrough of its facilities in their entirety, but it has happily shown off long stretches of hallways and corridors, all deeply buried underground. What is immediately noticeable, though, in these long clips is the lack of blast doors and other safety features meant to limit damage to a facility from bunker-buster weapons. Normally, an underground facility will be compartmentalized much like a submarine or a ship. This allows the ship or sub to take on water in one area and simply seal that area off, protecting the rest of the ship. With underground structures, the concept is the same. Blast doors spaced at regular intervals seal off parts of the facility from each other, and thus limit the damage caused by attacks of bunker-busting weapons. The blast doors act as a physical barrier to the propagation of the wave caused by the detonating explosives, lowering its impact after each successive barrier. Yet, in all of Iran's videos to date, not a single blast door is visible in the long stretches of corridors and hallways shown off. This means that either Iran has made a critical error, or it believes its facilities are simply out of reach of anything short of a nuclear weapon, which they know the US would never use to attack. And there might be a reason for Iranian confidence. According to Tehran, some of these facilities are built as much as 1,300 to 1,600 feet underground, nearly a full third of a mile of solid stone between the surface and the structure. America has been extremely tight-lipped on the true capabilities of its best bunker busters, the GBU-57 and the GBU-72. According to public sources, both weapons can only penetrate a fraction of that depth, but rely on explosive blasts to cause damage to structures much deeper than their total penetrative ability. So as hostilities seem more likely than ever, thanks to America's massive influx of weapons, ships, aircrafts, and personnel to the Middle East, who is going to win? The Air Force or Iran's underground facilities? There is no telling except for one thing. Historically, the US military tends to deliver on its promises. While militaries like Russia's are well known for flat-out inventing capabilities, the US tends to keep those capabilities very close to its chest. But when it makes a claim about its capabilities, its enemies tend to find out it wasn't lying. With 30% of the US stealth bomber fleet currently in the Middle East, though, it is clear that very soon the entire world is going to find out who was right and who was wrong. What do you think about the use of B-2 Spirit bombers and precision strikes like this? Do you see it as a necessary show of force or an escalation too far? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Now go check out Iran's World War III plan, or click on this other video instead.